What is up? It is Tuesday night, the new night for TCR, getting ready for the season. Obviously, we don't want to be going at the same time as Thursday Night Football, so we've made this switch to get ready. I am joined by my good friend, Aaron Van Buren. Aaron, how are you, sir?
Great. It's busiest thing ever is getting ready to move, start a new job, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, man, you got good, exciting news going on. So, and I appreciate that you've made the time to hang out with me and the group sincerely. I know you got a lot going on. If anyone's wondering, Kyler Bird's not able to be with us. He's on the IR right now. But he's going to probably be joining us in the chat. So everyone send good thoughts out to him. He's just kind of dealing with some stuff health wise. Hope to have him back on the active roster sooner rather than later. Real quick, let's do a shout out to some of the folks that are in the chat. We got Grandizer. Appreciate you being here. Welcome all Cardinals fans to the stream. Welcome NFL family watching around the world. Hope everyone is having a safe and great day. Grandizer, good dude. Appreciate you. We got Silverwolf AZ. Should the Cardinals extend Byron Murphy Jr. before the season starts to avoid a Christian Kirk situation? That's a good question. We can jump right into that in just a second, right? And then we got let's see, we got a couple other folks in here. We got Jason Krell. What's up, guys? Ready for the Cardinals football? We got some preseason football coming up. Paul G saying hi, everyone. Appreciate you being here. And then Brian, thank you. There he is, the man, the legend, Joe. The content king. Thanks for making my night fuss. Thank you. We really appreciate that. Very kind of you. We got _ NFL. Thanks for being here. Go Cardinals. Appreciate you. Agent 47 finally gets your stream. Well, we appreciate you making it. AVB's hair's a little wild. Was he out playing football?
This is natural.
That's natural. Dude, any day with hair is a good hair day. And so that's just all I got to say.
I'll take his word for it.
Yeah. So, we got the preseason game coming up. We want to talk about that, the depth chart, a few other things. But I think this is a good question to get us started. Why don't we jump right into what Silverwolf is saying? What do you think about that, Aaron, in terms of Byron Murphy Jr.? His last year of his rookie deal. Do you think they should extend to avoid a Christian Kirk situation?
I don't know necessarily before the season because I think you would agree with me. We still need some veteran hope or veteran presence in there for hopefully a better feeling when you look at the cornerback depth chart. When it comes to maybe avoiding a Christian Kirk situation, I can see where you're going with that, Silverwolf. It's more about I don't think it would be quite as there because I think Murphy has actually gotten a little more improvement than Kirk. Kirk was kind of in this gray zone. I know Murphy's gotten hurt too a little bit, but I feel more confident with Murphy being around than I did with Kirk. So I would wait until after the season, get a veteran in there. And I'm happy for the guy from Hawaii who just got signed. I forgot his name.
Cortez Davis.
Yes. And, but I just, I hope he gets experience, but for the good of the team, it's got to be a veteran back there.
Yeah, with Byron Murphy Jr., I don't see it being quite a Christian Kirk situation. I just don't think he's going to break the market, the way Christian Kirk did. What did I miss a joke?
Grandizers. What the?
Friendly reminder to all the wonderful
viewers.
Up above it. Okay. Oh, here we go. AVP was either playing football or his hair. I think he usually wears a hat.
I do.
Maybe it was both. She was playing defensive back, and yeah. Okay. There we go. So I don't think Byron Murphy Jr. is going to actually break the market the way Christian Kirk did. And it's not that I don't think he's a good player. I think he's a good slot cornerback. I know coverage, is important. Cornerbacks get paid a lot. But, man, the wide receiver market just went bonkers, just went crazy. And what the Jaguars offered Kirk, I don't know. I think we said this before. We don't know who they were competing with, but I don't think anyone else was offering that kind of money to Kirk. I think he was I think if it weren't for that crazy, offer that the Jaguars offered, I think he would have made $12 million a year, maybe a little more, under normal circumstances, because receivers are making lots of money. But I just don't think Byron Murphy's going to get that kind of deal. I know Kirk, for fans view his production as a little hit or miss, but he actually was pretty good. And if you're a team looking for a young receiver, be kind of a slot receiver, he's a really good option. They overpaid, and I love Christian Kirk. I don't think Byron Murphy is going to cost that much. It does depend. Like if you can commit to Murphy and say he's going to be our slot cornerback, and we can get him at a reasonable contract, then I'm fine with it. But I wouldn't worry about it being a Christian Kirk situation.
Yeah.
And there's probably reason to kind of, if he's willing to give you a reasonable kind of hometown discount, maybe, but I wouldn't be too worried about waiting and seeing how the market plays out. Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
But so, going along with the whole Christian Kirk situation, does this mean Murphy's going to tweet out, "I'm going to play wherever Kyler Murray is," and then he's going to bolt? I mean, I don't blame him. I would leave for that money too.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, so they're both hometown guys. So I hope they keep Murphy around, but I don't want them to overpay him. I mean, I think he's a good slot corner, but he hasn't, to me, shown that he's a number one corner.
And that's why I don't think anybody would be trying to poach him unless, somebody sees him, whatever. I don't know.
I mean, someone's going to want to sign him, but it's how much, right? And so, it's the price, right? Real quick, let me say hey to some of the folks that popped in here. We got Diego Perez. Yo, appreciate you being here. We got JP saying extend Byron Murphy. We've got Kyler still on the IR, but I'm here. Appreciate you. We got Lance S. What is up, Lance? Appreciate you being here. And I think that's everyone who's jumped in. So, yeah, that's a good question, though. I mean, I think I wouldn't mind if they extended him sooner rather than later if they don't overpay. But I don't know. I think they want to see what he gives them this year. So, for sure. So let's real quick talk about a couple things that what happened this weekend. We'll get to the questions in the chat for sure once after we get through a few things. But there were a couple of news items that I think worth mentioning. If you're on the Twitters, you may have seen that there was a tweet that went out for a young boy who had his K1 jersey taken at the scrimmage. I think he had an autographed K1 jersey that got taken, and a Cardinals fan named Christy Brown tweeted this out, and it kind of obviously got some traction. And Kyler Murray sent a jersey that looks like the whole team signed it. Jersey on the way, bro. So just a kind of a feel good story. Obviously, the kid was he was devastated, really sad, and then Kyler comes through doing kind of the good PR thing and the good. What you want face your franchise to do, right? Those kinds of things. And, happy ending to the story. And the kid ends up with probably a better jersey than, to be honest, probably more of an actual, game type jersey and with all these autographs. So, that's definitely kind of a good thing. So glad to see that. And so that's kind of one thing that was in the news. Couple things. Did you see Cliff actually acknowledge that Murray's wrist is injured, tweaked? I've kind of made a habit of watching all of the press conference videos that they post on YouTube. So I did see where he said that. He didn't. He kind of downplayed it. He kind of said he kind of tried to say, well, no, we're just kind of being precautious, and maybe he's just been throwing a bit too much. So
the wrist needs to get better, as Cliff would always say.
So I think there's probably a little bit of something, but it didn't sound like it was too serious, right?
No,
What are your thoughts on that?
But it also depends what wrist is it. Is it his throwing wrist? I mean, is it his left one that would presumably be on the bottom for to absorb the impact of the ball? Well, not like he's under center a lot, it's shotgun, so it's a lot less. But it's never good to have a wrist issue when your main thing involves throwing. So
I would say it's pretty likely it was his right wrist, because one of the things that got people asking about that is there was the clips of him during some of the practices doing drills like the footwork drills, and then throwing the ball with his left hand.
Well, I had seen it was either Bo Brock or Blake Murphy tweet that out that was just a 5-minute drill and then they moved on. So I don't want to put too much stock into that. Maybe it's just, use your left hand just to get the brain in all the stuff that fires everything up there. So I don't. I mean, if he could become the NFL's first switch throwing quarterback that I know of, and be the athlete that he is, I mean, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. So, and then, Lance saying there was some video before he went down with COVID that shows him rubbing it. So, I'm not worried about it at this point. It sounds like maybe there's a little bit of soreness, but I think if it were anything to be worried about, I think they'd be doing more. They wouldn't have him be throwing it at all. And he has been doing some throwing. So I'm not worried until there's more reason to be worried, I guess. So, yeah. So one of the things that's coming up, though, is the preseason game against the Bengals. Finally some football. And the Cardinals released, and I'm going to add this to the stream. I know it's a little hard to see. Maybe you can see it. This is on their website, but they added a depth chart for the preseason game, and it's based on who they expect to be playing in the preseason game.
Nobody ever would have seen Andy Isabella first string wide receiver on any depth chart.
Right. So this is the offense. I can cycle through this. This is the defense, and then I've got the special teams. Why don't we go back? Why don't we start with the offense? And what I'd like to do is
that's not even right.
Yeah, I'm when it comes, I've said this before. When it comes to preseason, the thing I want to see is who's getting snaps, and who isn't getting snaps. And often who's not getting snaps tells you a lot. Like if a guy isn't getting snaps, I've said this before, throughout the preseason, and I know this is just the first game, but if a guy is not getting snaps, either that player has a clear role and they're giving them a break, or if it's a practice squad bubble kind of a player and they're not getting snaps, is because they're probably not really competing for a roster spot, right? Now, the guys that you see at the top of this roster, a lot are either guys that are competing for a roster spot, or in the case of, for example, Will Hernandez will be starting. It's just a new guy. They want to get more reps, I think. Right. So aside from guys who are guys that you think are going to be starters, or have a prominent role already, the rest of the guys to me are players. It tells you that they want to see more of those players because they're on the bubble, mayhaps, or trying to figure out their role. So with that in mind, what stands out to you, Mr. Van Buren, about what you see from this depth chart?
Well, I mean, I know some people in the chat are kind of popping off about it. It definitely Isabella, as we found out, but Greg Dortch, the Torch, which I would like to say that we at Raising Zone are nicknamed first. But Dortch the Torch is, starting wide receiver, and he's been connecting with all the quarterbacks in camp. And I mean, especially now since, Trace McSorley is going to start. So you can scratch Colt McCoy out of that thing. We'll get a good look at him, and as well as Jarrett Guarantano. Yeah. I have never said his name out loud before then. But
that goes.
It's going to be a real good look at both the quarterbacks, and Dortch is, he's earned it, and hopefully he can kind of be a kind of a hybrid weapon. I mean, kind of like, I'm not saying he's going to be a Deebo Samuel because the size is not the same, but some sort of like gadget, prime Danny Amendola and whatever New England, little guy that just runs around and annoys the crap out of the defense. That could be Dortch's role. And then the other thing too, like I've been saying on this stream and podcast for so long, is give Eno Benjamin a chance. Mm-hmm. And yes, I know it's preseason, but Kyle Odegaard tweeted out today that he just sees Eno Benjamin as Connor's handcuff at this point. So for all you guys who have been with me on the Eno Benjamin bandwagon, we may be this close to winning it. And I wonder what that really means for Darrell Williams too, because they brought him in the offseason and people were saying like, there's no way he's going to lose this job. But I like Eno, and it's going to be great to see him on Friday night against the Bengals, which, even though it's going to be backups, they're still the defending AFC champs. So it'll be a good look for us.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I think you make some good points. Let me kind of hit a couple of things. Like Silverwolf AZ is saying, can Dortch return punts? He can. In fact, I looked up his college stats. He had kick. He was a primary, or did a lot of kick and punt returns in college. And on this depth chart, Dortch is listed as the kick returner and the punt returner. So they're not only getting Dortch in some reps at kick or as receiver, but also as kick returner and punt returner. So I think, and it looks like Aaron, did Aaron freeze? Looks like Aaron's froze, so he'll probably drop out and come back. So I think, Dortch is an amazing return man. Thinks he's starting punt return. So I'm just amused by the look on Aaron's face on the screen that he froze. But yeah, when I look at this, I think Dortch has a really good chance to make the roster, both as kind of a slot receiver. He's looked really good in out of camp from everything we've heard. I've seen some clips of him making some nice catches. I thought last year he didn't get a ton of touches, but when he had the ball, he looked good in very limited snaps last year. So, I'm gonna, that look on Aaron's face is gonna give us nightmares, right? I'm working on getting internet. Yeah. So I think when you look at this, I think Dortch being, up here as one of the starting receivers and on punt return, I think they're wanting to give him a shot to earn that return job and to see what he does, in games. So, and there he is. So, yeah, so I think Dortch, I was just talking about how Dortch is going to be the kick return punt returner in the game. And I think he's the guy who has the best chance of winning that. I mentioned I watched a lot of the interviews that are posted on the Cardinals YouTube channel. And I watched the interview with special teams coach Jeff Rogers. And in fact, I tweeted out a quote from him he was talking about how, Rondale Moore is going to be having a more prominent role in the offense, and they have to take that into account in special teams, and he might not be doing the return work. But one of the things he also said that I thought was interesting was when you have a player, if they are a kick returner and punt returner and they don't do anything else on your roster, right? They're not a player who plays regularly on defense or offense. They better be really good as a kick returner and punt returner, right? Elite, right? In order to earn a roster spot, if that's the only thing they do for you. So I think, when you look at it, they're going to look to find someone to be their kick returner and punt returner who can do that job well, but that they can also justify having on the roster in their native position, right? Like as a receiver who's going to make the roster on his merits as a receiver. So you look here, you got Victor Bolden, who is a receiver they brought in, who's also going to get some kick return, punt returner. But like when I look at who's likely to make the roster, I feel like Dortch is the more likely player to make the roster over Bolden. So for that reason, I think Dortch is the most likely guy to be the kick return, punt return. Like, Brian here saying Hopkins, Green, Hollywood, Moore, Dortch, Tweezy are the six, Bolden, Entman, practice squad. That's the final one. And I think there's a good likelihood. Obviously Hopkins will be out for 6 games. I think there's a good chance Isabella is in this mix at least until Hopkins comes back, and if Tweezy is down, especially.
Is that supposed to be Antoine Wesley?
Yeah, that's his name.
Okay, that's new.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's gone by the nickname for a while. I guess you weren't familiar with that one, right?
Well, I mean, that's probably Arizona thing. Up here in Chicago, you don't get that.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So I don't know, but I think Dortch is a guy I think is going to be there as the returner and make the roster. So anyway, I kind of monologue there a bit. So yeah, let's see. And then let's see what happens with Tweez's injury because he could be out for a while. But let me throw this at you too, though. One of the things someone talked about, I want to talk a little bit about the running backs because you talked about Benjamin. And Benjamin is going to make this roster, and really, it's a question of is it him or Darrell Williams who's that sharing, who's getting the Chase Edmonds carries, and Eno's looking like he's got a good chance to be that guy from everything we're hearing. But obviously, Connor's going to make the roster. Eno's going to make the roster. Darrell Williams, good likelihood of making the roster. It'd be an upset if they let him go after bringing him in. It's not impossible, right? They seem to be talking up Jonathan Ward. They like him on special teams. He hasn't got a lot of carries, but he seems to be a key special teams contributor. And then Deontay Ingram's had some nice plays. And when it comes to Deontay Ingram, I don't think they would be able to keep him on the practice squad. Bless you, Aaron.
Thank you.
I think Ingram would if they tried to get him through the practice squad, I think Deontay Ingram would get poached. And I don't think they want to lose him. I think what they're trying to do is take day 3 running backs and do what they did with, I think they're trying to repeat the Chase Edmonds things. They drafted him in the 4th round. It took about 2 years. Then he became a contributor. They let him go sign somewhere in free agency instead of paying the big money. And now Eno's ready to go. Bless you. And I think that their plan with Ingram is the idea is a couple years from now, when Eno is a free agent, if he goes and signs somewhere else, or if maybe they re-sign him and James Conner's deal's over, I think they want Ingram to be that guy that they kind of groom to in 2 years from now be part of that workload. So I don't think they want to lose him. But it really sounds like they want to keep all those guys. So you've got Connor, Eno, Williams, Ward, Ingram. That's 5 running backs. They historically keep 4 running backs on that on the 53-man roster. Sometimes as little as 3, but they're going to go at least 4. So I'm really spending. I guess this is a big buildup. But like someone posed on Twitter, and if it was someone who's in here, I apologize if I forgot that it was you. Do you think they go 5 receivers and instead of 6, and then keep that 5th running back at least initially, and then maybe go with the 3 tight ends and go more tight end heavy sets? What do you think about that?
Okay, that's a lot to process.
I'll give you a second question. If they only go 4 running backs, who do they try to get on the practice squad there, or who do they let go?
Okay. So with this being an air raid offense, there's no way they're not going to carry 6. They're going to have to, especially because you don't know what's going to happen, and at least you expect 6 wide receivers. What you don't expect is to do a John Gruden at the running back position and keep 5 running backs, because that's just it. To me, that's just silly, because you already have so many mouths to feed. You have a couple of role players, your AJ Greens, who can be a 3rd down possession receiver. Darrell Williams and or Benjamin could end up being the 3rd down back. If they keep anybody on the practice squad, I guess it would be Ingram. I have never even heard of Ronnie Rivers until like 2 days ago. I don't see, Jonathan Ward getting the crack on the offense for a while here, unless God forbid something bad happens to the guys above him. So it's going to be Connor, Benjamin, Williams, and Ward by default. But unless Ingram can take over that spot, I don't think any of them would be in danger of getting poached. I mean, you want to take a 6th round running back or Jonathan Ward, who I think is undrafted. If you want to go and use him on your team, hey, I'm all for him continuing his career. I just don't know if he fits in the offense, because all Jonathan Ward did last year was a fake punt. And special teams is definitely a thing, and I totally recognize that. I just don't know if his impact is good enough to keep him in the running back depth chart. Now, it would be really interesting if you could have a special teams, position on each and every roster for one guy, kind of like the Matthew Slaters or Steve Taskers of the world, because then you might want to keep him around. But I'm not really sure if that answers the question.
I really think that Ingram would get poached. I could be wrong, obviously. I know he's a 6th round running back, but that doesn't. I mean, running back, you get good running backs late. I think he's looked good. I think he will probably look good when he gets some chances. And he's a player some people really liked out of college. So, man, I think Ward, and I do agree with. I think it was underscore said, or if I'm not mistaken, maybe someone else might have said it, that Ward, they'd have a better chance of getting him through to the practice squad without him getting poached. I think Ingram would be more likely to get poached, but when they've got a guy they like as a practice squatter, they hold on to them. So, if it is me, as much as Williams has got some nice veteran experience, to me, with the way Eno has played, Williams might be the guy. If they are determined that they're going to keep Ward for special teams, right?
Are you talking about Williams being cut?
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm predicting that, but if it's me and I've got Connor and I've got Eno, who has looking like he could be a starting running back in terms of what we're hearing, in terms of his level of play. If I've got those two guys, I've got Ingram, who I really like as a future, as the next guy to to kind of in a year or two be part of that rotation. And then if they like they want to keep Ward for a special teamer and they don't want to put him through the practice squad, then for me it's Williams, the veteran, who's a nice player, but he's he is who he is, right? There isn't the same upside as there was with the other guys on the roster.
I also think I think it would do wonders. Of course, this is never the main objective, but it would do wonders if Eno Benjamin can blossom. And Keim doesn't have draft picks, but if he hits on a 7th round running back, I mean, that would kind of, I'm not saying totally douse the entire fire that's burning in his draft house, but it would definitely reduce it by a good amount. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know. It seems like the kind of tide is starting to turn. Knocking on wood, it feels like some of the last couple of years draft picks are starting to pan out a little bit. I know the 1st round picks are still a lot of question marks, but I think Rondale Moore showed promise his first year and is going to have more of a role. I think Jalen Thompson is a big win. I know we've had a little bit of gone back and forth on him. I'm a big fan. I think when you get a running back in the 7th round, what you want from like the Eno trajectory is like exactly what you want from a 7th round running back. You draft them. They fell the 7th round because they weren't really ready to necessarily be a major contributor, but you develop them. And by year 2 or 3, in this case, year 3, they become a big part of your offense, big part of that rotation. That's what you're supposed to do with the 7th round pick. Right. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And when he did get the ball, he looked good too last year. So, yeah. Appreciate Grant Ezra throwing out these shout outs. Yeah, everyone follow us on Twitter and follow Aaron Van Buren and please be sure to like the stream.
Site expert.
Yeah, site expert Aaron Van Buren. Yeah.
They haven't updated it, but whatever.
Yeah. All right. So, man, Andy Isabella, and we've got a new writer on AZ Sports Underground who just posted an article about Andy Isabella. Andrew Heidemann, who just wrote his first article for us. And, Andy Isabella's kind of on the bubble and he's fighting for a roster spot. But they're giving him, he's going to be one of the stars, which means they want to give him a chance to show what he can do. Right. But it seems like the issue with him, and I feel like this is what has always been the issue, in my opinion, at least, is I feel like they wanted him to be with their small, fast receivers. Cliff seems to like those guys to have the versatility to play both in the slot and outside, like with Christian Kirk and Hollywood Brown. And it seems like Andy Isabella is not really he doesn't seem to play well in the slot. I think the reason he hasn't panned out or hasn't gotten more snaps is because they tried to play him the slot and he struggled there. So, but he's going to get some looks there. So I don't know what that. We'll see what happens. I think he is fighting for a roster spot. But like, let's see. Let's look at the defense. Anyone here that stands out in terms of what you're seeing, players that are on the bubble that you want to see from them, or what you're seeing here that is standing out to you and that's interesting?
I'm surprised Kennard is starting in there. I mean, I know he has a pretty decent role in the run game, and maybe he's just out there to give some veteran guidance. Seeing Antonio Hamilton start is interesting. I thought, Josh Jackson with a little more NFL experience and, at least more reputable college track of film, Josh Jackson would have been above him, but at this point it's a horse apiece, a coin flip. I am interested to see Charles Washington, another 7th round pick, go out there and play. I think I forgot what school he's from. But
it's a smaller school. And was it SMU?
He's FCS, isn't he? Right?
Maybe. Why do I think it was Southern Methodist, SMU, Charles Washington? Charles.
I think Paul said he was in the FCS championship last year, so that would have been.
Talking about Charles Washington?
Yeah.
Charles Washington's a veteran. Colorado?
Oh.
Played at Colorado.
Okay, well, I'm wrong.
I think SMU was the. I think Chris Banjo was at SMU, if I'm remembering. That's right.
I'm just excited to see Washington, or maybe it's Wiggins. I can't remember who they picked late. Oh,
Wiggins was with Cincinnati.
Jordan P. is saying Washington. Fresno State.
Fresno State. Oh, there we go.
That's it.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm really looking at those 3 guys: Kennard, Hamilton, and Washington. I guess the others don't really surprise me too much.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, let me say hey to some of the folks who popped in here. We will get to some of your questions. So we got Jose who's dropped in here. Thanks for being here. Majai has been looking good from what we're hearing. So really excited to see how he looks. We got Mr. Mono. They might put Tweezy on pup. So yeah, we'll see. That might happen. If I missed anyone, I apologize. Let's see. I think there's 1 or 2. We got CDH. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here today, CDH 410. And let's see, Jordan P. Appreciate you dropping by, and Seth Carpenter. Hey everyone, appreciate you hanging out with us. Yeah. So, all right. So when I look at this, okay, I think it's interesting that Kennard is playing. He's kind of banged up. So, but it seems like, it's interesting that he's playing because he's a guy I figured was probably safe to make the roster, even though he hasn't played up to what people had hoped. He's a veteran, good against the run, but so maybe they just want to get him rolling a little bit. Antonio Hamilton, I thought played well for them last year. He was one of their better graded cornerbacks. I think he was the 2nd best graded cornerback after Robert Alford. So I think they want to see how much of a role he can play. So maybe they want to get more. I think he's probably safe to make the roster, but I think maybe they want to see what he does, maybe with some more snaps, maybe maybe they want to see how he can play on the outside a little bit. I think the one that stands out to me as interesting is Marco Wilson starting, because again, I look at it that they're giving snaps to guys that they either want to acclimate to the system, maybe a veteran like with Hernandez, or guys that they want to get more information on. And Marco, they have, he started last year, and I feel like they know what they got. So it's interesting that they're getting him the start instead of one of the other guys. Now, again, the 2nd string guys are going to see, they might only play a quarter or a half, the 1st string guys. So the other guys will get a lot. So Marco has a groin injury mentioning, so I don't know.
But there were pictures of him returning to practice today, but he's still questionable for the game.
Okay. Gotcha. So that's interesting. So, but Josh Jackson is the guy I'm watching. I think he has a chance to make this team. He's a former second round pick. I mean, and he hasn't quite panned out, but his PFF grades have been 50 to 60, which isn't great, but it's also not like it's good enough to they're a guy. It's good enough to be on an NFL roster. If you can get like 300 snaps and grade in the upper 50s, lower 60s, that's typically what a kind of person who you would expect to be on the roster. So, yeah, you're talking about the guy that other cornerback that Cortez Davis. He's probably a practice squad kind of a guy. So, Lawrence, and yeah, I know I've saw a couple different views.
Yep.
Like, Jose's not a fan of Lawrence, but I am. I think I agree with
If
Eloan
he's
here.
not the best, yeah, then who's going to be better? I mean, I don't know much about Antoine Woods. I don't know anything about Christian Ringo.
Woods has started before with
That's
Dallas.
true. Yeah.
You know what? Woods is a decent depth veteran. He's fine. If he makes the roster is there with Lawrence, I don't mind that. Of course, sad face on me that my guy Danny Shelton signed somewhere else. But no, I like Lawrence. I think I'm very bullish on him.
We could just get some linebackers with run support, and that's why Kennard is so vital. I know people like to kind of talk about him, but Kennard's good at what he does.
Well, speaking of linebackers, and I know some of y'all in the chat have commented on this, and I didn't ignore that. There was a report that Roquan Smith, is it that from the Bears, has asked for a trade. And I don't think there are any legitimate rumors tying the Cardinals' interest.
No,
but fans, right? Cardinals fans have been like, "Hey, let's go trade for him," and it's been kind of all on Twitter. So, what do you think about the whole Roquan thing? And obviously, you're in Chicago, so I'm sure you hear about it up close and personal. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can tell you this, that obviously the Bears fans that I know up here are rightfully pissed. And for a player to come out and say the organization is refusing to give me, any sort of contract or leeway is ridiculous when they're in a rebuilding mode. He's arguably their best player on defense, if not the entire team. He had a crazy stat that only like him and like Ray Lewis had done in the last 20 years or something. But I'm really mixed on the idea of doing it, because a part of me says if you trade for him, you could plug him in wherever and he's going to start. Now, I have to look him up because I don't know the Bears roster like ours, but he's a Mike linebacker, or is he a Sam?
He's an inside linebacker, is my understanding. Yeah, Mike.
Okay, so if he were to be traded, he'd be starting over Collins per se.
I think what people are saying is, we're talking about, and I did a video on this, Isaiah Simmons being that star backer who's kind of this hybrid. And then I think what they would see is Zaven Collins playing the will, and then Roquan being the Mike probably.
Okay.
That's probably how people envisioned it.
So, and that kind of, segues into my next point, that as much as part of me wants to trade for him, like, we've got to figure out what we have in Simmons and Collins. The only other way I could see this possibly happening is if they do a swap. If we give him Collins and we give him, or we get Smith, but we give him, a second round pick with it. I don't know, because I think Jose, talking about the Bears are going to ask for a big price, but I don't know about that. The Bears haven't done a trade yet. It's a new general manager, Ryan Poles, who is not really liked up here right now. I can tell you that much. But if it's someone who can bring an edge and an intangible to that defense, like the Fire, if you got a Spitfire, we got one in Baker in the secondary. You got JJ Watt. I mean, you kind of have Gardeck in the middle, but I mean, to see the kind of plays that Roquan Smith would do with the people around him to really blossom would be fun to see. But I'm going to close the door and say don't make the trade.
On a side note, Roquan Smith is from Montezuma, Georgia, which is 30 minutes from where I live. And I know he's kind of some folks around. Like actually, I have a friend who knows him and works with him for some charitable work locally.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm not about that move. And it's not that I don't think he's a good player. I do think he's a good player, awesome. But I think, and I think Lance makes a good point. He's more of a downhill backer, probably doesn't necessarily fit our system. And we've got a lot invested in that inside linebacker position. And I know we're, people are like down on how, Simmons and Collins have played. We got to give those guys a chance to show what they can do. I think, Nick Vigil's a nice depth piece. He's not a guy necessarily you want as a number one starter, but I think they got to roll with those guys and let's invest resources in cornerback and where we really, where there's a need. So I'm not for the trade, God bless Roquan, wish him the best. Side note, Joe, will you be going to the Panthers versus Cardinals game still? I'm hoping to. I got to work out a few details to know for sure. It's like a 50-50.
I would love to go to a home game next year.
I am planning to go to the Falcons game because that's 2.5 hours from here. I've got some friends here. Actually, a group of us are going, and probably going to try to, if there's anyone else who's going to the Falcons game, try to plan a meetup while I'm there. I got to work out the details. But Lance, I'm still hoping to go to the Carolina game. It's a 50-50 out, but I will reach out to you, message you once I know for sure, but definitely I haven't forgotten about that. That's for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I think so, it's interesting. Fotu, they're getting him some DT play, to get him in there, see what, he needs some snaps. I think it's interesting that Ezekiel Turner is getting, and I know, he's primarily been a special teams guy, and Cliff has talked about him developing into more of a kind of a linebacker / safety. And he's a former safety, I believe, in college. And then they moved him to linebacker, but he's really special teams. And I don't know. I like when you have those guys that are primarily just special teams and they don't do much else, it is a little tougher to keep them on the roster. So I wonder, seeing Ezekiel Turner get that start, if they really want to see what he can do to justify continuing to keep him by seeing, can he be part of the linebacker depth on a consistent basis? So maybe, I don't know, but so we can, is there anything else in there that's interesting to you that you want to talk about in terms of the depth chart?
I guess the only other thing I would say is Victor Dumakaji only being a second string. I think by now, he was 2020 draft, correct?
He was drafted 2021, a 6th rounder, I think. He was a rookie last year.
Okay. All right. Well, then I thought it was a year further down, but that makes more sense. So then,
well, yeah, I will tell you, if we don't see him much on the field, then that's a bad sign, because he's a guy who's fighting for a spot. He's on the bubble.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They're obviously Cameron Thomas, Majai Sanders. Those guys are both making the roster. But Victor, the numbers game is tough at edge. I've said this before. Right. I know everyone's talking about where they want us to sign a veteran edge rusher, and I'm not saying that necessarily isn't a bad idea, but it is. The numbers game are tough because they keep like 5 guys on the edge last year.
Exactly.
You got Kennard, Gardick, Golden, Cameron Thomas, Majai Sanders. Demikaji's already number 6.
Dogby too.
Right. Dogby is a little more that defensive end. He's more in that group with Zach Allen and Lucky Fotu.
But he's on the bubble. Edge rusher anyways?
I'm sorry?
Are you classifying edge as a completely different
outside linebacker?
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. So like you've got Golden, Gardick, Kennard, the 2 rookies, that's 5. And then you get Demikaji's number 6. He's already, if they go with what they've done in the past, he's up. And then you got Jesse Luketa, who's kind of in their outside linebacker and inside linebacker. So you bring in a veteran, they either have to, they're like the rosters are a 0-sum game. Like
there's too many chefs in the kitchen.
Well, yeah, and or think of it this way: it's like you've got a cabinet and there's only so much room on the shelf for glasses, right? And you fill it up with all those glasses and mugs, and you got one more mug you want to throw in there, but to fit it in there, you got to take a mug out, right? So it's kind of like that with the roster. It's like So the numbers are getting tricky with edge rusher in particular, right? And this is Marcus Golden tweeted out underappreciated, underpaid, undervalued, but still I go to work and so all right. I don't know if it was on Instagram, but he is underpaid. He's not underappreciated by Cardinals fans. I mean, we appreciate Golden, but I don't think he's going to hold out. I would like to see them give him an extension and a pay raise, but I don't know. So yeah, but Dogby's an interesting one because he's a former, I think, 6th round pick who's been on that kind of defensive end with Zach Allen and those kinds of guys, and he's played well at points, So, I don't know. Yeah, Golden isn't practicing. They're claiming he's not feeling well, but I know obviously what everyone's going to say, and the joke is DJ Humphries had the stomach virus, and the cure for that was getting paid. So, is it the same thing, right? I don't know. So anyway, what are your thoughts on that whole situation with Golden?
I think it's while he may not be as popular or even notorious in a good way as like Calais Campbell and Tyrann Mathieu is, this is another one of those players where the Cardinals should not let him walk.
Mm-hmm.
It is a guy who literally, I think, pretty much did, when he came back to Arizona after being traded from the Giants, did the Daytona 500 celebration, like kissed the bricks of the complex, because he always wanted to be here. And when he was in New York, it just wasn't good. He'd be a fan favorite, and and that's really all I have to say. Just keep him around. Whatever he wants to be paid, you got to pay him, and he's gonna be a pretty good impact player for a couple more years, and then he may be kind of an older plug and play veteran down the road. But you can't let him walk because there's been too many of the guys, and you can put whatever player you want in there that have left. But Golden should get paid, and hopefully we don't have to talk about this next year.
Yeah. And Brian's here saying don't let him walk, don't overpay for him either. I want to see what he does with Chandler on the other side. Yeah. I think that Golden, I think he deserves a raise. Now, how much of a raise, right? And can you fit? But he signed a super team-friendly deal because he wanted to be here. And man, I listen, I love Marcus Golden, one of my favorite Cardinals of all time. But like his contract, I'm bringing it up right now, is for the production, a guy who's a double-digit sack player for them last year. Yeah, his cap hit is 3.9, just under $4 million. That's his cap hit this year. So base salary is $2 million, signing bonus, some bonuses. So anyway, and then there's a miscellaneous something, or maybe a restructure. I don't know. Anyway, like he deserves at least. I think at $8 million a year is like what a player of his caliber deserves. Probably a double-digit veteran who's later in his career. But what I hope is that they give him an extension that pays him a little more like what he deserves, but not necessarily overpaying. And I hope he's one of those guys that who has a job in the organization when he retires. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like Adrian Wilson did. That's because he loves being a Cardinal. So yeah, for sure. I want to address underscores bringing up something that that kind of was, I saw some folks have talked about this, and I do want to address this because I think it was kind of misconception. But did you hear about a report in training camp where K1 was upset? He wanted to make the calls, and Cliff let him. Cliff, then K1 would be a bad play call. Your thoughts? Now, I'm glad you asked this underscore, but I'll tell you, you remember that game called that telephone game where you would have someone whisper something in your ear one time. You couldn't ask them to repeat it. So if you got it wrong, you got it wrong. And then you had to go whisper it to someone, and they would whisper it, and it went around the circle. And when it got back, it was nothing like what it originally was. Like what you just described there is kind of like the telephone game version of what actually happened. And I'll tell you, I know it's because if you go to azcardinals, the YouTube channel, this whole kind of sequence, the conversation or the question and answer that this comes from is actually on a YouTube video, a press conference with Cliff Kingsbury. And they asked him, or they were asking about Kyler, and I guess Kyler had COVID, and right, and so he's coming back from COVID, and so let's see, so he's come back from COVID, and to keep him involved, they're trying to do some things to kind of get him involved. So they were having him call the plays to help keep him involved. And also because, and Cliff said in another interview that he thought it would be good to help him see the field or see the defense from another perspective, right? Just help broaden. And in that interview, Cliff, when talking about it, if you watch it, you listen to it, Cliff is giving a deadpan delivery of a joke. He's basically, they're talking about him calling the plays. He's like, yeah, I let him call the plays. I want to see, that it's not so easy. You think you can do it? All right, big guy, let's see what you can do. And he jokingly said that, that Kyler kind of was, talking in the quarterback's ear right up until the snap, that he was just really involved. And he, jokingly said, I wouldn't want to play for Kyler because he's just too intense. But it was, if you watch it, it was not Cliff being upset. It wasn't Kyler being upset about it. It was Cliff made a decision to let him make the play calls to keep him involved, to give him that experience. And then, when it happened, like when you listen to Cliff tell it, you can tell if you understand dry humor, it's totally a joke. And so like the people have, Josh Weinfuss tweeted out about that. And I don't want to be too critical of anyone, but Weinfuss, a lot of times, I think we lost Aaron for again. Weinfuss will take some things out of context. Let's just say that. And if you see the quote out of context, it sounds like someone's angry, but it was. So anyway, I encourage you to go back and watch those interviews. Yeah. Fake news, dry humor. Thank you. Some folks talking about. Let's see. He got paid in New York, so he loves AZ and is happy with the organization. Talking about Marcus Golden. Yeah. Marcus has a place in Arizona. Give him his just pay. Helped give him his just pay. He's helped us these couple of seasons. Okay. If they can push some money down the road, extend him now. Aaron's back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So what's your prediction for the coming year for Arizona Cardinals? You're going 14-3. I'm on the record of 10-7. I'll probably stick with that. But I'd like to see it more. Carlos Dansby got $8 to $9 million end of his career. Dansby's a different level. Golden not at level. I'd say 15% less than Dansby, $4 million a year. They play different positions. I mean, Golden has had 3 double-digit sack seasons in his career. He's underrated, but I think for a pass rusher late in their career who is a guy who can get double digits potentially, those guys usually get between 7 and 8 million a year right now, I think. So I think that it's somewhere in that range, but is probably fair for him. Yeah, so Jordan said it was all jokes and just fun to keep Kyler involved and also to show Kyler it ain't easy, very easy. Today, Cliff said in an interview that's how the relationship is. Yeah, listen, and I think I might have tweeted this out, and I'll let you jump back in here. I know you've had some internet problems there. Of all the things that you legitimately might want to worry about with the Cardinals, the relationship between Cliff and Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray is not something I worry about. Cliff has known him since he was a teenager in high school. He tried to recruit him. He met his family back then. He wanted to draft him 1 overall. He's been a fan. Those two are good, right? Cliff and Kyler are good. Their relationship is fine. So that of all the things maybe to worry about, that's not one I would worry about. Aaron, you've been asked, and then I'll let you jump in with anything you want. I know I kind of monologued while you were out. Aaron, what is your prediction for the Cardinals? record this season?
I originally said probably 11-6, same as last year, but I've recently revised it and I've gone as high as 13-4. But I would probably settle down maybe 11 or 12 wins if I had to pick a range for you there, Seth. And the what was the other thing you had? I'm sorry.
We were just I was talking about the whole thing about the play, Kyler calling the plays and some people, and when you were kind of when you had your internet issues, you went out. One of the things I mentioned is what's his name, Winefuss, he tweeted out the quote in text, right? From Cliff, Josh Winefuss. But the thing is, like when you tweet something out, like again, I'm
text can only tell you so much, and
right.
It's not like Cliff is the king of inflection in a voice, and so that's why when I saw that, I literally retweeted out like I had really no idea what to make of this, because when I played college football, my college coach, he made sure we worked, but there was a lot of humor that you had to know him to really understand.
Yeah.
Because if that goes to anybody else, they're like, well, this guy is like, what did he say? I wouldn't worry about that at all. If there's anything I'm more worried about, it just goes back to, the relationship between Steve Keim and the pen on the paper with the veteran cornerback.
Yeah. Now, I'll say I communicate for a living. I teach. I also do a lot of writing. I will pick on. I'm nitpicky about this, but like, I think in my opinion, if you take something like that, a quote, like if you're in the media, a quote like that is going to be taken the wrong way, right? If you take that quote from Cliff out of the way you do and just put it in a tweet and throw it out there like that without any context and with it just the text, it's going to sound like Cliff was mad. I think that's kind of irresponsible reporting, or reporting just knowing it will get a reaction. Sorry if Josh Winefuss watches this. I don't think he does. Sorry, I'm being critical. I think that tweet was trying to get, it would get a reaction because it's kind of inflammatory at the surface, but it's out of context. So anyway, that's my little
Skip Bayless comment either.
Yeah, there you go. So there's a couple of people, and I know we wanted to talk about this, and some folks have kind of brought this up. There was a tweet that went out there. Yes, it's clickbait, and 100%. Though there's more. There's clickbait that is worse than other clickbait, but I want to get into that. But there was a tweet from someone who said that he was listening to 98.7 and John Gambadoro. He was basically saying John Gambadoro had said that if the Cardinals grab a starting level cornerback, a veteran, that it's going to be through trade. Now, we've been talking about bringing back Robert Alford or going after a Joe Hayden or these folks. So, and that's an interesting thought. So some folks have talked about that, and Bleacher Report lists Marcus Peters as a possible trade candidate. Save the Ravens about $10 million, and he's coming off an injury. I think a name that some folks had tweeted out there was Greedy Williams, former second-round pick who's kind of the third cornerback and might need a change of scenery. So what are your thoughts about trading for a cornerback, and do you have any thoughts about who it might be? And yeah, Jordan P is confirming this. Yes, Gambo said Cardinals are actively looking for a trade for cornerback. So do you have any thoughts? And if anyone in the chat has a thought, obviously Mr. Romano mentioned Marcus Peters. If anyone has any thoughts of someone that you think they should go after in terms of a cornerback, what?
I'm not sure if your mic cut off there, but can anybody else hear him? I can't hear him. Either way. All right. Well, I'll keep talking till the light goes out. But it would be fun. Wouldn't it just be so crazy if Steve Keim just suddenly decides to trade for Patrick Peterson and bring him back here again? But So, but no, I would love to see him trade for a veteran corner.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go.
Somehow I got muted. So I'm sure it looked really funny. Just me.
Mime school.
What are your thoughts on trading for a cornerback?
Yeah. I jokingly said, watch Steve Keim go and trade for Patrick Peterson. But I'm happy with any veteran at this point. I don't really have one. I guess if I had to pick a dream one, I'd say just go and get Gilmore from the Colts and do whatever it takes, because he's a good fit there, but he would be so much better in the NFC West.
Yeah, and I think, and you kind of you alluded to this. It'd be tough to trade for a top cornerback. No, so hard. No one wants to trade starting corners, but what you're looking for is someone who is maybe on the last year of the rookie deal, and the team doesn't look to extend them, and they don't have a major role. I can't.
Noah Igbignogany.
Is he with Miami?
Yeah, he's from Auburn, first round pick.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna try to butcher your name. I apologize. Greedy Williams. Yeah, I think those are the kinds of guys you're looking at, right? If they're gonna make a trade, maybe Marcus Peters, someone who like that, right? Yeah, we could have signed him if we want to pay for him, but we didn't. Third cornerback for another team would be number 2 here. So that's what you're looking at. You so wish Miami traded Noah.
He's been iffy. I know he had an injury last year. I actually, Grandizer brought up Peo's Moof series, and I jumped on the Dolphins one they had. I got to talk to him a little about it, and he's been kind of like fighting up that hill, Igbignogany for the Dolphins. So, I mean, I don't see that as a bad trade, and and the Dolphins, they just had their first and third round pick taken away, so they'll take any draft capital they can get. So
it looks like Trill Williams is beating out Noah in camp, so maybe that's why. Bradley Roby could be an option. They have Debo as their number 2 in New Orleans. He hasn't been used so
Bradley
much.
Roby is almost a starter in New Orleans, though. I don't think that's going to happen.
I know a lot of people have talked about Kuda in Detroit, former first-round pick. It sounds like, though, I mean, I don't think they're going to give up on him yet. I mean, he's a first-round pick, so sure, I'd love to take a shot on him, but I just don't think so. Seth's asking, who's going to have the most massive impact this year? Were you asking from a particular position, or
I guess he's just saying in general?
Okay, so who, what player do you think? Oh wait, here we go. Biggest impact. He's picking Myjai Sanders, DeAndre Baker, DeAndre Hopkins.
So which one of those though? You got 4.
Yeah. So DeAndre Baker is a guy that got cut by by the Chiefs. That's an interesting name, but yeah. So what who do you think is going to be the biggest impact? Or maybe let me kind of frame it this way, because I mean the quarterback is the biggest impact. But who do you think could be the most surprising impact player? That isn't a clear star like Hopkins or the start. Kyler's the starting quarterback. Player that you think is going to maybe people outside of Arizona are going to be surprised by.
I think it actually will be Rashad Lawrence if he can stay healthy. We don't need someone to get sacks in the middle. If they do, they're a bonus. But if he can just be, a run stuffer or command a double team and clear stuff up for the second level to come on through and do what they do, then it's going to stand out, because it's like, dare I say, like the nose tackle is sexy again, or for the first time ever. Aaron Donald's out there. Ndamukong Suh, maybe the first one, in my generation to really kind of polarize it, for all, minus all the other stuff that came with him. But you get a good defensive tackle, and they are just always one of those cool guys. I guess I can't forget Vince Wilfork either. So
yeah.
I'm not saying Lawrence will be a Wilfork or any of those guys, but just a solid season from him on the tape, and then he could almost be a Pro Bowler. So
Yeah, trade for Vita Vea.
They're not letting him go.
Yeah, I know,
wish.
right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think Lawrence could quietly have, like, I think it's one of those things where he could have an impact that is not noticed by the average fan because his impact is going to have a cascading effect on the linebackers, right? If the middle inside linebackers are more effective, right, because he's eating up those blocks. So he could definitely, I think this is an interesting one too. I think Isaiah Simmons a breakout year as a star backer. And again, like I did a video on that. I'll tell you what, it sounds like they're doing some things different with him to let him play in those places where he's more effective. It seemed like he kind of got, when he got, kind of close to the line of scrimmage and those blocks kind of ate him up. But when he was able to see things in front of him and was playing in space more, he's really effective. So I think he could be an interesting one for sure. Rondale Moore could definitely,
I didn't want to go with a super easy one.
Yeah. But man, Simmons really could. Myjai Sanders as a pass rusher could really have an impact. There's a lot of names, and then, Jordan's got an over-under Hollywood Brown. I think it's going to be a little bit under because they're going to spread the ball around a lot.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to have a big impact because when you have a guy who takes the top off the defense, like he can, it's going to open up things for a lot of other players, right?
A better over-under would be a yards per catch number.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, K1, 44, 50 yards, 35 touchdowns through the air. If he plays all 17, I could see that for sure. Seth's got a trivia question. Let's see how we do on this. If you guys, which rookie will make a trivia question for you guys? If you guys answer this right, which rookie will make the MVP candidate or passing yards, receiving yards?
What?
And touchdowns, interceptions, fumbles.
I know. Fumbles.
Is that a trivia question? I mean, trivia.
Marcus Colston against Washington return touchdown. How can it be a trivia if it's going
if it's a future thing? Maybe I'm not sure if we're understanding your question. So sorry. Yeah. Be interesting. If on his contract year for Simmons, if he gets paid like linebacker, quarterback, safety, that's really going to matter. Like they kind of joked about that during a press conference, or he, with him, or he joked about that a little bit, right? So yeah. So I don't know. So I think Simmons could have a breakout year. I mean, Collins, he's going to get some snaps. So I don't know. Jordan thinks he's going for over 1,200.
Barely got that. Barely did. He barely got 1,000 yards in Baltimore.
And it is a different offense, but I think that the Cardinals offense is more of a pass happy offense, but there are more receivers here to more mouths.
Don't forget we were almost a 50-50 split on run to pass. So I mean, is the offense really that much different than Baltimore? I would have to see the specifics.
We do pass more than Baltimore, but to me the big difference is that like in Baltimore, like it was Andrews and Hollywood, and that was it. If you remember before DeAndre Hopkins got injured last year, the Cardinals were spreading the ball out more than they had like in either of in last couple of years. Like, so I just think with Hopkins being out, that's going to open up some things for other people. And so some receivers will have bigger earlier, but then Hopkins comes back. He's going to take some of those targets. When you have Zach Ertz and McBride and Max Williams in the passing game to some degree, I think I just think that, and then you got AJ Green, Rondale Moore. Is Greg Dortch going to be, a factor? Like he'll be a small factor if he is, but there's just so many guys that are going to get the ball. So I think we might only have one 1,000-yard receiver on this team, right? So
that's not bad. If you got four other guys, 700, 800, 900, whatever.
Yeah. I know we've already gone an hour, and I know Aaron's got to get out of here. He's got a lot going on. So why don't we I know, folks, a lot of great questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to them all. Why don't we do one more question here? Okay. Why don't we do this one? I know we talked about, but what are your thoughts on DJ re-signing DJ Humphries?
I mean,
I know we talked about that last week, but what were
yeah.
your thoughts on that?
I mean, if you're going to have Kingsbury and Kyler here in Kime, you got to have someone to protect them. So I guess it's a match made in the desert. Um, kind of wordplay that on that one, but no, it's good. I mean, it's first time the Cardinals have had a long time lineman. I know apology or you brought up Louis Sharp, and then Dan Dierdorf, and so we'll see how long Humphreys plays, and if you can get close to however long Dierdorf played, maybe 10, 13 years, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Why don't we do? I'm going to ask you one more question, and we'll kind of let you kind of end on this, and then since we never got around to this, what do you want to see in the preseason game against Cincinnati? What are you looking for?
I'm looking more on I guess the soft skills from the coaches. How what is the tempo of the offense? What are the audibles going on? Did we check out of something? How are the coaches responding to a deficit or a 2-minute situation? Are they trying to get opportunities? Are they going to use the timeouts? That's what I want to see. I want to see them use timeouts. That way they can at least try to get a 2-minute drill for the offense, or give defensive guys a breather and get more in there. I'm looking at how many guys are going in and out, and of course, preseason games don't matter, but if these are third and fourth stringers against the defending AFC champions, third and fourth stringers, then we can take a little more away from this game than in most. And even after this too, Baltimore coming up in week 2 is no joke either. So I guess that's what I'm looking for. I'm excited to see McSorley play, and maybe they'll be playing his rap song all next week if he does well. So
yeah, for sure. And I think Agent 47, I think we all agree with this. One thing we want to see is no injuries, right? That's the most important thing. Yeah, I want to see some of the guys that are in the bubble, see how they look. What does Andy Isabella show? Guys like that. I want to see Dortch. I want to see all the rookies, because some of them probably won't play much this year, and this might be our only chance to see them, for at least for some of them. I want to see how the running backs look, because we've been hearing about them, but I want to see it, right? And I want to see those pass rushers, especially the rookies. Because there's a lot of questions at pass rush, right? And we may be having to lean on some of those rookies. So, Aaron, I know you got to get out of here. So tell folks where to find you, anything you're working on, anything you want to kind of promote before we get out of here.
So my sports Twitter is right there. You can follow the page right for at Raising Zona on Twitter. Also we're looking for a site co-expert. So if you think you got a good amount to write, and you can edit, and the Cardinals well, we'll get that position posted up soon, and we'll start going through that. And then we're just going to be shifting into more our preseason, for the NFL is just like preseason for us. So we're going to be getting into more of our daily habits and everything, articles about analysis. I know I have 5 questions with Stripe Hype, the Bengals site, that's going to be done by tomorrow, or at least by Thursday, for you guys to read. We'll have some in-depth look at the Bengals, and I know it's backups, but hey, I mean, this is what we've been waiting for ever since January. This is 7 months, and enjoy the heck out of it on Friday. We will react and respond, and we'll go from there. So it's here, Cardinals fans. It's about time.
This is the last week without football. Last week was the last week without football till February, right? So that's exciting. Yeah, you all know where to find me at Jokomo13. If you haven't already followed me on Twitter, please do. I'm somewhat active there. I try to tweet a little bit here and there. Obviously, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. And then I've got some stuff on azsportsunderground.com. The links below. Got some articles up there. Check it out. We're doing some good work over there. Appreciate everyone. And, thanks for all the questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them. There are a lot of great questions. If I missed you, I apologize. We try to get at least one comment or question from everyone. But you guys definitely make this a highlight of our week. We definitely enjoy hanging out with you guys. So what I'm going to do is always, I am going to throw up my shout out wall for the Ring of Honor, the channel members. I appreciate your support, everyone. I know a few of y'all weren't here, so thank you so much. And we will see you next time. Peace.